Are we on? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today we have a special periscope for you at one of, or the oldest pump station here in San Antonio. And I have Greg with me today, who's going to tell us a little bit about the history of this really cool pump station that is maybe hidden in plain sight. You probably have walked by it, driven by it, and maybe not even realized it. So this is what we call the Market Street Pump Station, and it is 125 years old this year. Is that correct? Did I get that right, Greg?
125. That's yeah, you're right.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that, but it is.
So before I step out of the frame and let Greg take us on a quick tour and give us a little bit of history, I want to make sure that you guys remember to please swipe and share if you're watching us on Periscope. Share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, or whatever social channels you guys have. We'd really appreciate the shares. Also, please make sure that if you're asking us questions, this is your opportunity to ask any live questions. Give us hearts. Or if you are watching this on one of our replay social media channels like YouTube or on Facebook, feel free to comment and let us know if there's anything else we can answer for you or what other topics you'd like us to bring you. So Greg, it's all yours. Let me step out of the frame.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Good morning, Scopers. We are here at San Antonio Water System Market Street Pump Station, and this is probably the most historical and most important site in San Antonio that nobody really knows about. It's kind of tucked away and hidden down here in downtown, and just for some perspective to sort of give you some sense of where we are directly across the San Antonio River from the Hilton Hotel. That's it over there. And on the other side of us here is the Briscoe Western Art Museum. And then tucked in between, right here next to the beautiful San Antonio River, is the Market Street Pump Station. As Lily said, this was the site of the first pump station in San Antonio, and it's really more important than that. This was the site of the first large Edwards Aquifer well for municipal supply. There had been some Edwards Aquifer wells, some small wells drilled before 1891, but in 1891 George Brackenridge had the contract with the city to supply water, and he was a wealthy man and he had money to experiment, and he drilled a well on this site. And when the well came in, it was just a stunning geyser. There was so much artesian pressure that they said it blew out rocks the size of a man's head. It just blew water 30 feet in the air. So at that point, San Antonio for that day and time really had an unlimited supply of water. And so it was that well that started development in San Antonio as we know it. Without that supply of water, we could have never had a city of 1 million people here relying on the Edwards Aquifer. Before it was a pump station, there's a lot of important history that happened here before. This was part of what was called El Potrero. It was part of the common grazing lands for the Alamo mission. And then the city's first social club, called the Casino Club, was right here on this site. And in the mid-1800s, all of the big entertainers of the day performed there. During the Civil War, generals on both sides came to the Casino Club. And then in 1891, George Brackenridge purchased a property and drilled that well and changed the use of that from the Casino Club to a major pump station for San Antonio. So 125 years, this has been a major pump station. It still is a big pump station for San Antonio. Today we have 3 wells here that have a capacity of 43 million gallons a day. That's a lot of water. There's a storage tank out back that we're going to look at. And Danny, let's go inside and look at the high service pumps. It's kind of loud in there, but what we're going to see are the high service pumps that pump water from this site to all of you in town. And then we're going to walk down some stairs and look at the header piping as well. I know you probably can't hear me, but these are high service pumps that send water from the wells into our storage tank and then into town. Want to go down? We're down here in a portion of the pump station where people don't often get to have a look at sort of the underground piping that we have at these pump stations. Sir?
They say that the viewers say they can hear us pretty well. So
oh, you can? Okay. So as more and more wells were drilled all over the artesian zone of the Edwards, what developed was a very complicated water system because you got wells all over town. That's very different than most cities where you have a central reservoir. So it became very difficult to operate and control the water system. So by the mid-1960s, controlling pumps and tanks and wells using telemetry or radio signals was kind of an advancing science. And this site was the first place in the country where an entire water system was brought under computer and radio control. That happened here first. They called it, in 1968, they called it San Antonio's push-button water supply. The entire water system could be operated from this building right here.
I know it's loud in here.
Let's go upstairs. We're looking off the back side of the station now just to give you some idea of where we are. That's the San Antonio Riverwalk just below us, and the Ita Assembly Hall right across the river. The Arneson River Theater is right here on the right-hand side of this green storage tank. That's about an 800,000 gallon storage tank. And amazingly, you really can't see it from anywhere except from right here where we're standing. It's pretty well disguised.
Water for the downtown area?
Yes, this pump station serves mostly the downtown area, but also we can bleed water down into what we call other pressure zones, mostly to the south and to the west of here. So depending on what the demand is like, this water may go 10 or 12 miles south and west of here.
Great. Now, obviously you said we were at the Bristol. You know, we showed the Hilton at one spot and the Bristol on the other side. So why don't we go back out front so you can show off that beautiful school?
Yes, let's do that. So for many years in the 20th century, the City Water Board, before San Antonio Water System, had its headquarters building here on this site. There was a famous fountain here called the Lady Justice Fountain, which everybody thought had disappeared, but was in the Saw's warehouse. And just a few years ago, it was restored, and it was put back at Main Plaza in front of the courthouse. So you can go down there and see that now.
We had a question about why Mr. Brack drilled so close to the river instead of where, did it say? I didn't catch the whole thing, but any idea why it was first drilled here so close to the river?
Well, I think that it was just a coincidence that it was close to the river. What he wanted was, he had just before that, some geologists had studied the Edwards Aquifer. They were the first ones to figure out how the Edwards works with artesian pressure and water going in the hill country and then coming out through springs. And they predicted that there would be this large area where you could go anywhere in that big area and drill a well and get good water. So George Brackenridge hired the geologist that did that study to advise him about where to drill a well. And he told him, well, where do you need the water? You need it in downtown San Antonio so drill there. And he bought, I'm not sure if he already owned this property, I think he purchased it, but what he wanted was a site that was central to where the demand for water was, which was right here in downtown.
Perfect.
Now, so this was the City Water Board headquarters for many years until they outgrew it. And then by 1968, this area had been transformed into kind of a portal for the Riverwalk for Hemisphere 68. And so it's always been open to the public, but it is sort of like a prime commercial area, right? A lot of potential here. So when the Briscoe Museum next door was developed a couple of years ago, they wanted to lease part of this property to put in this sculpture garden. And so what they do at the Briscoe is you can rent this area here for weddings and receptions and all sorts of events. And it's just worked out really well that it's open to the public most of the time, except for when they have a special event, and they have really done some beautiful things here with these sculptures. So it's open anytime the museum is open. You can come here, and there's no charge. You can just walk around and have a look. You're on San Antonio Water System property, but these sculptures all belong to the Briscoe. They're the lessee of this.
And it is beautiful property. Even the doors. I was looking at some of these gates and doors, and you know the door. I mean the gate up here. There's sculptures everywhere, all over here. So it is a very beautiful space. If I still worked downtown, I would be having lunch at these benches.
Now, part of the lease agreement was that the museum would put in a piece of artwork that had something to do with water. And I want to walk you over and show you what we put in. It ended up being an art tile mural. There's a long history in San Antonio of these murals. It's called the San Jose style. There was a lady named Ethel Harris who developed the style in the 1930s and sold these art tile pieces at Mission San Jose for many years. And you see her work all over town at Alamo Stadium.
There's one down by the Hyatt, isn't there?
That's
like
one.
that
There's one
area?
there. You see them all up and down the Riverwalk are many of her works. And so what we wanted to do was commission a brand new mural that would tell the story of the history of water in San Antonio, using that San Jose tradition that you see so many works here in San Antonio that they use that style. So this is it. So I want to briefly tell you the story here. This over here on the left-hand side is the Blue Hole. This is an Edwards Aquifer spring that's just a few miles north of us here. Of course, native tribes used the Blue Hole and the San Antonio River for at least 12,000 years that we know of before any Europeans came along. So that's what we're depicting on this part of the mural, is these prehistoric uses and cultures. And then here we sort of transition into Spanish colonial times. You see the Spanish built these aqueducts, these acequias that diverted water from the river and from the springs up into the farmlands to supply the missions. Then over here, this is the massive artesian geyser that I was telling you about that George Brackenridge drilled in 1891. It really was that tall. It was just an unbelievable sight in downtown that was in all the newspapers. It was a big, exciting thing. San Antonio realized that it had a huge supply of water. And not just San Antonio, but the entire region, all of South Texas realized that the geologists Hill and Vaughn, they were right. You could go anywhere in the Edwards Artesian Zone as they laid it out and drill a well and get good water. So the availability of water like this, delivered under pressure to your doorstep, wherever you want it, this is the reason that we have a city of 1.5 million people. And this is the reason that South Texas was able to grow and develop the way it did, because of water from the Edwards. And that's what makes this site probably more important than any site in San Antonio except the Alamo itself. So because of this well and others that came after it, the city transitioned into the modern day metropolis that we know now. So this mural tells the story, and I want to invite y'all to make a special trip down if you're local, or next time you're in town, to come down and have a look at the mural and learn about San Antonio's water history and the Market Street Station.
So I'm going to join Greg now, and we're going to wrap this up. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this rare tour of our Market Street pump, and that you'll join us again. Actually, this week we have 2 off-schedule periscopes, today's, and then we'll be doing one tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock about some new technology that's helping us diagnose our large diameter water pumps. So please stay tuned, join us again tomorrow, and visit us usually every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Thank you.